What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scary Soldier back with another Borderlands 3 video, and in today's video we are going to be showing you the most epic, the best, the hardest hitting Zane build in the game. So without further ado, let's go ahead and break this down. So for starters, we got the gear over here. Some of the gear is situational. So starting off, we got the root. The root is a situational weapon that I love to use versus enemies with huge critical hit points, like a grave ward, for example. It's just going to decimate those kind of bosses. If you want those one hits, this is going to be your weapon for that. Now, moving on, for our all-purpose weapon, we have the crit. The crit is just the best SMG in the game, and make sure you have one. Now, of course, the anointments that you want to have is going to be Sentinel Crowd for the most part. You can obviously have action skill and anointments next to mags because you are going to be using the Mantis, so feel free to do so as well. But for the actual crit, if you want the binary prefix, you're going to get more damage per second. Without the binary prefix, you're going to actually be able to conserve more ammo, of course. But the other anointment I want you guys to carry is this one right here. While barrier is active, get more accuracy and 70% more critical hit damage. The crit is notorious for when you hit crits, you're just going to be absolutely smashing enemies. With that extra 70% critical hit damage, it just goes through the roof. I was doing between 3 and 4 million damage per hit with this weapon when the barrier was active. It was amazing. Plus those amp shots, it does a lot of damage, guys. So feel free to just try this anointment out. And your Mantis does way more damage as well with this anointment because, again, it is just that much more critical hit damage. So moving on, we have the Light Show. We also have the Anarchy as our other main weapons. These weapons are just so good with Zane. Make sure you guys have one. I will suggest a couple more weapons. So you want the Smog, the Convergence. You want a couple of redistributors when you use the barrier. You guys can also use things like the Mongol. This weapon is so good. One of the best rocket launchers in the game, in my opinion. The Backburner, the Plague Bearers are also great. Plasma coils, all the meta weapons are obviously going to be usable for this build. Now, the main shield we are going to be using is going to be the Void Rift. The Void Rift is going to be our #1 shield for mobbing. You guys know how good it is by now. It's just such a great mob control type of shield. So what beautiful thing about Zane is that he has the Infiltrator, and when you activate your action skill, the Infiltrator will break your shield. So all the Void Rift special effects happen when your shield breaks. So we don't actually have to go for the anointment on action skill start, which is great because we can actually add more elemental damage to this build, which in turn is going to give our Nova even more damage. So make sure you get action skill in on both your grenade and shield, and make sure you have an Infiltrator for mobbing. Now, when it comes to bossing, you're going to switch out your shield, put an Old God on with action skill end, and what you want for this is going to be actually the Silent Spy or the Seen Dead. These two class mods are going to be your go-tos for bossing because with the Seen Dead, you can stack commitment so much higher than you can with the Infiltrator, and this is going to give you that much more damage versus any boss in the game. So make sure you carry either or of these class mods on hand. So moving on to the artifact is quite simple. You can have the Icebreaker Victory Rush and you're good to go. Make sure you have movement speed, crowd damage, SMG damage, or at least something like Area of Effect to make sure that Nova actually gets an increase in radius and damage. Now, moving forward, you guys see the skill tree real quick. We're not going to explain too much because Zane's skill tree has been the same for a while now. Basically, we went to the capstone of the blue tree, and we also went to the capstone of the purple tree. Pretty simple damage type of build for Zane. But what we did a little bit different was we went into the double agent tree, and what we did was we picked up some more mag size for more damage per second. We also got borrowed time, which was great. And we picked up duct tape mod. We put 1 point in there because this gives us a complete immunity versus self damage. So for times that you have to shoot the Anarchy away and it blows up, or the root, or any of those things that can possibly kill you, they won't anymore with this 1 point. So that is also very good for survivability. And we put 2 points at Donnie Brook just to give us some health regeneration. Plus it stacks 2 times, which is great as well. So that is pretty much the build, guys. By the way, one last thing to mention, I did try the build out with distributed denial when we were using the Void Rift, and it's really not that big of a deal. All the actual barrier does pretty much is it actually will shoot those projectiles of the Void Rift a lot more, but the projectiles only do about 500,000 damage, which really suck, and it's not that great. and the effect only activates when you call in your barrier and when your barrier ends. So then you'll get the black hole effect, but you can just spam that with the Mantis anyway. So it's really a waste of 11 points to get no damage out of this tree. So pretty much we don't need it. And that was that. So we're going to show you some gameplay of it. We're going to show you our guardian rank real quick. We're at level 620 rank. So for those who are curious, and we do use Mayhem 10 because Speed Demon just gives us that much more damage. So that is why we use Mayhem 10 versus Mayhem 11. Speed Demon gives us way more damage. So that is it, guys. Let's go over to the gameplay and see this build in full effect. Okay guys, so we're going to be starting off the video with some Grave Ward gameplay just to give you some perspective overall on the damage you can get from this build. So here we go, we got a big boss, and just look at the decimation that just occurred, guys. It's very, very impressive how much damage you can get with a build like this. And we're going to do this one more time by using the feature of Fugitive, and Fugitive can be found in the purple tree, which allows you to sprint and shoot with Zane. Zane's a character who basically bases his damage off of speed, so the faster he moves, the more damage he does. And now that we're able to sprint shoot, we can maximize our damage potential while moving with things like violent momentum, violent speed, and all of that good stuff. Now what you guys see also right here is we switched over to the barrier just to show you that the barrier anointment on the crit is just as effective, if not even more effective, because of that 70% extra damage it's going to give you. Now the crit already has a default 150% bonus critical hit damage in the weapon. That is why it's called the crit. So when you do crit damage with this weapon, you're going to be absolutely melting enemies within 1 to 2 shots, which is why that anointment is so powerful to add another 70%. Now with the barrier as well, it adds protection, and we were using distributed denial just to give you some comparison. But again, the distributed denial wasn't really that worth it in the long run because again, the projectiles that come out of the rift aren't that powerful. They do about 500,000 damage per hit, and of course it requires enemies to actually shoot. Now if they don't use actually weapons that can actually shoot, and they use like orbs or any kind of elemental damage that are like orbs and non-bullets, then you won't get the effect of the Void Rift. So honestly, distributed denial is a hit and miss. That is exactly why I kind of prefer using the Sentinel, but nonetheless you guys see that the damage doesn't stop. Whenever we want to do any kind of Void Rift effect, we can always just call in our Mantis with the combination of the Infiltrator, allowing us to activate our Void Rift whenever we want. And the main feature that I love about the Void Rift is that it's such a good thing to crowd control. You can clearly see that it throws enemies off of their target. It throws them around like they're in outer space, dragging them on the ground, moving them everywhere, and it makes it very easy for you guys to get kills. Now also, it seems like the Void Rift, since it grabs enemies in towards you and then a Nova goes off, it completely weakens them or can even kill them very easily, and it can also freeze them. Now this all ties in together with the build, because when you freeze enemies, you're getting bonus damage from that icebreaker of about 45%, I believe. So that's added damage to what you're already doing, which is just insane. And then to tie it all in, we don't have to sacrifice action skill starter anointment for our bonus elemental damage with this build, which is why I love it so much. Now, when it comes to bosses, as I mentioned before, you want to switch over to a Scene Dead so you can stack up those commitment stacks as much as possible so you can get a lot of damage. Like you guys saw early on in the video, we absolutely decimated the Psycho Reaver, and that was only because we were using the Silent Spy / the Scene Dead, because if you guys use the Infiltrator, you'll notice that your damage is not going to be as high. The Psycho Stabber has some of the most damage any boss has in the game, so you're going to need those stacks of commitment to do more damage to him, but that is the bottom line. Now with the crit as well, just be careful around the bridge and of course near the Valkyries, because you have a chance every time you reload this weapon to disregard it. And I don't know if it's a glitch or not in the game, but sometimes even though you drop the crit real close to you, it seems like it falls through the map, or even it just, because of all the singularities, just flies somewhere into outer space, and you can never find your gun again, so you have to go over to Moxie and tip her and tip her and tip her. So just be aware of that. Carry a couple of crits on you just in case. Now, what I love about the augment in the purple tree from your Mantis is the ability to grab enemies and bring them close to you. So this is very good, considering we have the black hole pulling in enemies, and we also have our Mantis pulling in enemies. Why is it important for our Mantis pull in enemies? Because we are getting a bonus 20% damage to those enemies that we grab. And for hard to reach targets like those flying troopers on jetpacks or even those drones, it allows them to come right to us, which is great. Now, the other last thing with the Void Rift is that the black hole's radius is absolutely insane, guys. It will pull enemies from so far that it just makes your life that much easier for hard to reach enemies at the same time. And with the ability to spam the Mantis with those extra charges, gives you the power to basically unlimitedly spam this build, which is why it is one of the best builds in the game. It is a combination of many things. So for mobbing, you want the Void Rift. Bossing, you want the Old God. And for mobbing, you want the Infiltrator. For bossing, you want the Silence Spy or Seeing Dead, and you guys are good to go. And that is pretty much the build. So we have the final kill right over here, guys, versus Wotan, and we're gonna show you again some more power of this weapon. I want to show you the Mongol in action because a lot of people don't seem to be using it. They mostly will use a Backburner, Plague Bearer, but just look how good the Mongol is for this build, guys. Now, the way the Mongol works is that you want to create distance between you and the target to allow all the projectiles to split from the rocket of this weapon to get the most damage, and you're going to see that in a second, and it absolutely decimates Wotan, and that is pretty much it. So that is the build, guys. Go ahead and try out this setup. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section. Please leave a like on the video. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Road to 3K subs, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. It's your boy Scare Soldier signing out. Peace.